In 1987, every carmaker on Earth was in an arms race to add more. More electronics, more driver aids, more comfort. And then Ferrari built the first production car ever to break 200 miles per hour. And it did it by ripping almost everything out. No anti-lock brakes, no power steering, no traction control, no carpet. The windows don't even roll down. You slide a piece of plastic. This is a car where the door handle is a fabric pull strap, and you can see the bare carbon weave through the cabin because they didn't bother to cover it. And that stripped-out, half-finished-looking machine hit 201 miles per hour and became the most thrilling Ferrari ever made. This was also the last car the old man himself, Enzo Ferrari, personally signed off before he died. So how does subtracting almost everything build the greatest supercar of its era? Because Ferrari understood something everyone else forgot. And it all comes down to one enemy. And that enemy is weight. Every single kilogram. Here's the thing people forget about going fast. Power gets all the glory, but weight is what quietly strangles a car. Weight makes you slower off the line, it makes you brake later and worse. It makes every corner harder, and it blunts your top speed. Add a stereo, add electric windows, add sound deadening, add power steering, twice. Each one is comfort, sure, but each one is also dead weight the engine has to drag around forever. Ferrari's rivals were piling that stuff on. Ferrari declared war on it. The F40's entire philosophy was a single, ruthless question asked about every component on the car. Does this make it faster? If the answer was no, it got deleted. Carpet? Gone. Door panels? Gone. Sound insulation? Gone. And because the car got so violently light, the small turbocharged engine in the back suddenly had almost nothing to push, which is exactly where it gets dangerous. The war on weight is what made the F40 brutal. And on paper, the recipe shouldn't have produced a 200mm monster. Because the F40 didn't start with some enormous V12. The heart of it was a 2.9-liter V8, a small engine, lifted and evolved from Ferrari's earlier 288 GTO. By the standards of a top-tier supercar, that's a modest displacement. Everyone knew that to break the big speed barriers, you needed cubic inches, huge, naturally aspirated engines. The more cylinders, the better. Ferrari went the other way. They took that small V8 and strapped two turbochargers to it, forcing in air under pressure to make power the displacement alone never could. And there was a deadline pushing all of this. It was Ferrari's 40th anniversary. That's literally what the 40 means. And Enzo Ferrari was old and not well, and wanted one last great car with his name on it. So they weren't trying to build a luxury flagship. They were trying to build the purest, fastest, most uncompromising thing the company could physically make. Fast, from a small engine and a featherweight body. The smart money said it couldn't be the fastest in the world. The smart money was wrong. So the first trick was the materials, and this is where the genius is so visible you can spot it in literally any photo of the car. To win the weight war, Ferrari built the body and a lot of the structure out of carbon fiber, Kevlar, and aluminum composite. Exotic aerospace-grade stuff that was almost unheard of on a road car in 1987. And here's your proof. Go look at the inside of an F40 right now. You don't see leather and trim. You see the raw, woven carbon fiber pattern, completely exposed because covering it up would have added weight for no speed. The door pull isn't a handle. It's a little fabric strap because a strap weighs less than a mechanism. The side windows don't wind down. Early cars have sliding plexiglass panels like a race car because plastic is lighter than glass, and a window motor is pure dead weight. Nothing in that cabin is hidden because there's nothing to hide behind. Every gram of decoration was thrown overboard. When you look at an F40 interior and think, this looks unfinished, you're not seeing laziness. You're seeing the diet, made visible. Every missing piece is a deliberate decision in the war against weight. But strip a car down this far and bolt two turbos to it, and you build something that lives right on the edge of control. This is the breaking point. The F40's twin-turbo V8 doesn't deliver its power smoothly. It ambushes you with it. Down low, under about 3,500 to 4,000 RPM, the car feels almost tame, the turbo's still waking up. And then the boost hits. All at once, the full force of those turbochargers slams in, well over 400 horsepower arriving like someone kicked the car in the back. into a chassis that weighs only around 100 kilograms and has no electronic safety net of any kind. No traction control to catch the rear tires when they let go. No anti-lock brakes to save you when you stamp on the pedal in a panic. No stability system doing quiet maths in the background. Just you, a sudden, violent surge of turbo power, and a steering wheel. And here's the proof you can hear and feel in any onboard video. Listen for that moment partway up the rev range where the engine note hardens and the whole car lunges. That's the turbos lighting up. And on a wet road or out of a tight corner, that lunge is exactly the moment the back end tries to overtake the front. The F40 was the first road car past 200 miles an hour, and it asked you to manage all of it yourself. That was the limit, and Ferrari handed it straight to the driver. Now for what it sacrificed, and the genius hiding inside the sacrifice. To be this light and this fast, the F40 gave up basically everything we now think a car at this price should have. No comfort, no refinement. It's loud, it's hot, it's hard to see out of, the clutch is heavy, and there is zero insulation between you and the machinery. By the standards of a normal expensive car, it's almost unusable. But look at what that ruthlessness bought. That huge fixed rear wing you see on every F40 isn't a styling choice. It's a downforce tool, pressing the back of the car into the road so all that turbo violence has something to push against at 200 miles per hour. The whole body, shaped by Pininfarina, is built to manage air, not to look pretty for its own sake, though it absolutely does both. And here's the hidden genius. By refusing to add the comfort and the gadgets, Ferrari created something money normally can't buy. Total, undiluted connection between the driver and the car. Nothing filtering the experience. Nothing standing between your right foot and the engine. Every other supercar was busy putting layers of technology between you and the machine to make it easier. The F40 deleted every layer on purpose. The missing features aren't missing. Their absence is the feature. And people wanted it so badly that Ferrari, who planned to build just 400 of them, ended up building over 2,300 because the demand simply would not stop. And here's the twist that proves the whole point. After the F40, Ferrari kept building flagship supercars. The F50, then the Enzo, then the hybrid LaFerrari, and each one added back exactly the things the F40 threw away. More electronics, traction control, power steering, ABS, stability management, carbon brakes managed by computers, comfort, hybrid systems with hundreds of extra horsepower. By every number you can measure, power, grip, lap time, top speed, every single one of those later cars is faster than the F40. On paper, the F40 has been beaten by its own children over and over for decades. So the F40 should be a footnote, right? An old, slow, primitive thing. Except ask people which Ferrari they'd actually want. Which one is the icon, the poster, the dream? And an enormous number of them still say the F40, the car with the least technology, the one that trusts you completely and protects you not at all. Strip away the very constraint that made it raw and difficult and a little bit dangerous, pile the technology back on, and yes, you get faster cars. But you lose the thing that made the F40 immortal. The successors won the spec sheet and lost the soul. That brutal, stripped-out limitation everyone assumed was a weakness? It was the entire point. It always was. Over 300 Ferrari F40s were built, and it was the last car Enzo Ferrari ever signed off before he died in 1988. It was the first production car in history to break 200 miles per hour. And it got there not by adding, but by subtracting. By deleting the carpet, the insulation, the power steering, the driver aids, the very window winders, until all that was left was a featherweight body, 2 turbos, and a person brave enough to manage it. Everything the F40 lacks, it lacks on purpose. Every missing comfort is a kilogram saved and a layer of distance removed between you and the machine. People look at that bare cabin and see a car that's unfinished. What they're really looking at is a car that knew exactly what it wanted to be and refused, flatly refused, to be anything else. So here's my question for you guys. The F50, the Enzo, the LaFerrari are all faster than the F40 by every measurable number. But the F40 is the one people still call the greatest. So which actually matters more, the spec sheet or the soul? Let me know down in the comments. And if you like this kind of deep dive into the machines that went too far, subscribe. There's a new one every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.